It is now time for us to talk about the women's strawweight division, the title fight. A fight that a lot of people are considering one of the most eagerly anticipated women's fights for a long, long time. Zhang Weili is back in action for the first time since that epic match with Joanna Jędrzejczyk back at UFC 248. And she's taking on the person who beat Joanna twice in the space of 6 months, Rose Namajunas. Now, this is a fight which obviously very eagerly anticipated even before the past few weeks. And now it's become almost sort of like a Cold War grudge match with some of the comments that Rose has made over the past weeks, which has just helped add to the hype.
Yeah, this is one I'm very excited about. This is my most anticipated matchup of the entire card. I think this is a lot more intriguing than the main event, which we'll get to next. But you mentioned it. You know, these are two fighters that I love watching them fight. I love watching them go to work, and I think this is a fun matchup. I think Weili Zhang is remarkable. Like 21 fight win streak. Like she's just looked dominant in most of her matchups. That last fight against Joanna, I know it was a split decision. I watched it a couple times. I don't think it was a split decision in my opinion. I think it should have been unanimous. Obviously, Joanna looked good at times too. She landed a ton of strikes herself. That was like arguably one of the best fights in not just women's MMA history, but like ever. That fight was amazing. So I'll never get bored of rewatching that fight. But yeah, Weili is just so technical on the feet. She's got fast hands. She'll throw in high volume, lands over 6 significant strikes per minute. And she carries a ton of power for this division. And I think that's kind of a differentiator here against Rose, who is also technical, who has probably a more diverse skill set when it comes to her striking. But I think Weili's going to carry more power. I think Weili, when she's able to close distance, I think she's going to have much more success in the pocket, and I think she's going to land the heavier blows. So I really favor Zhang when it comes to how I think the fight plays out. I think if Namajunas can maintain distance and, you know, fight at range and without, you know, letting Zhang close in and get into her range, then I think she could have some success. And obviously, I think Namajunas is the more dangerous submission grappler. But it's just one of those things where I think if Rose doesn't have even a little bit of success early, I think she might get into her head a little bit. And that's a little bit narrative based. But even aside from that, I think Zhang is just, stylistically speaking, I think she has more advantages here. And I think she probably knocks out Rose or goes to decision and looks pretty dominant doing so. So give me Weili Zhang. I haven't bet the fight yet, but definitely considering laying the juice on Weili Zhang. So what are you thinking in this matchup?
At the moment, Zhang Weili minus 185. You can get Namajunas plus 150. When we put the poll out for the main channel, they had it at 64% in favor of Weili, which is where I personally stood. I'd maybe go 60-40. I think, again, this is such a compelling matchup mainly because of the stylistic thing, because we've seen, as you mentioned before, Weili being such a powerful striker, good work inside the pocket. We saw when she fought Andrade, just the way she was peppering her with like knees and elbows. And Jessica Andrade as well, durable as hell, can take a massive shot. And she just seemed unable to handle what Weili was throwing back at her. There are some concerns I do have with Weili. I think that she sometimes relies on being the bigger fighter in a lot of her fights, tries to bully her opponents a bit. And also as well, again, you can't maybe read too much into the regional scene and some of the early UFC fights, but I've seen fighters far less skilled than Rose cause Weili problems. I watched a fight, I think it was in Kunlan Fighting Championship. She fought a Brazilian girl called Marilia Santos, and Santos rocked her pretty bad in that first round. Weili obviously came back to get the win. And even in a UFC debut, right at the end of the first round, Danielle Taylor, not even in the UFC anymore, cracks Weili, and you can see Weili wobbling as she goes back to her stool. And I saw an interview with Jessica Andrade, and she said Rose carries a lot of power. She's quite deceptively strong as a puncher. So while I favour you in terms of Weili being the favourite deservedly, you can't write off Rose. And you can't write off Rose, especially in that first round when Rose looks absolutely amazing, as we saw against Jessica Andrade twice in a row. The first round, the first time she fought Rose, UFC 237, I thought that was the best performance I have ever seen from Rose Namajunas when she fought Andrade first time.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. She looked great. Obviously, you know, it didn't end well for her with the knockout slam, but rebounded nicely and has looked good since then. It's just it just comes down to how I see the matchup playing out, and I think Zhang gets into you know, her boxing range, and I think she finds pretty big success there. I don't think Namajunas is willing to go to war with her
Mm.
like Joanna did in that type of fight. I strongly favor Weili Zhang. So that's kind of how I lean, even though, you know, like you said, you can never write off Thug Rose. Like, she's great. I love watching her. She's very technical. Like I said, I think she's more diverse on the feet. But it's just one of those things where I keep going back to how does this fight play out? And I just keep seeing, you know, Weili pressuring her and Rose just folding a little bit, and Weili landing the bigger shots and landing in more volume. And even though I think she'll probably get hit a little bit, I think she's shown, you know, despite being rocked a couple times, like you said, she's shown to be very durable as well. So, so yeah, I like the favorite in this matchup. That's my take on it.
Good point to mention Joanna being willing to turn it into a war, because I don't think that's something that Rose is as willing to do. I mean, she did it to an extent when she fought Joanna the second time. That turned into a bit of a war, especially in those later rounds. But no, on the whole, I think that Weili is going to be more willing to turn this into a dirty brawl in a way that Rose isn't going to like.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I would be interested to see what happens if it does go to the ground, though, because we have seen that Rose does have a very good submission game, but we also saw Weili what she did to Jessica Aguilar, so she's not afraid to get down and dirty if she does get up on her back.
Yeah, I think Rose is definitely more dangerous on the map, but Weili, it's not like she's dead if it goes to the ground. It's not like the second Namajunas throws up a submission attempt that she's just going to tap. So it's one of those things where I think Rose can threaten a little bit there, but I don't know how much success she'll have with actually pulling it off, but we'll see.
What is going to be interesting to see is what happens in terms of who wins this fight next, because a lot of people are overlooking this when it comes to Weili. If Weili wins this fight, she'll have beaten 3 of the 4 strawweight champions. Carla Esparza would be the only one who she hasn't fought, and there's a good chance that Carla could be next in line for the title fight, but she's going to be taking on Yan Xiaonan. Could we maybe be looking at Weili building a sort of dynasty as the strawweight champion, or, especially if Shevchenko wins her flyweight fight, do they maybe try and do Weili as a double champ and book her versus Shevchenko, or even Andrade, because you could sell the idea of it being a rematch in a new weight class?
Yeah, a lot of fun possibilities you bring up, and to her credit, like you said, she's fought like the best of the best that this division has to offer. And if she does the same against Rose on Saturday, then who does she fight next? Because I mean, I'm not interested in her fighting Carla Esparza. I think she dominates her. So we'll see. And that's obviously, like you said, if Carla takes care of business and gets the title shot. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of ways you can go with that. But obviously, I'm pretty high on Zhang Weili for obvious reasons.